Do you feel shy when you go to a restaurant and need to order in English? Don't worry. Today, I will teach you simple and slow English sentences you can use when you eat out. So next time, you speak with confidence, not fear. It was a beautiful evening, and after a long day at work, I decided to go to a nice restaurant with my best friend. When we entered, I smiled and said politely, "Good evening, can I get a table for two, please?" The waiter welcomed us with a smile and said, "Would you like to sit inside or near the window?" I replied, "Near the window, please." The waiter showed us the table, and I said, "Thank you so much." I looked around. The place was warm, full of lights, and people were enjoying their meals. The waiter brought the menu and I said, "Can I get some water, please?" He nodded and left. I looked at my friend and said, "Everything looks so tasty, I can't decide what to eat." My friend laughed and said, "Let's start with soup." When the waiter returned, I said, "We are ready to order. I would like chicken soup and a fresh salad, please." My friend said, "I'll take vegetable soup and a cup of tea." The waiter smiled and asked, "Would you like anything to drink?" I said, "Yes, orange juice, please." Then I asked curiously, "What is today's special?" The waiter replied, "Our grilled chicken with mashed potatoes is the most popular." I said happily, "That sounds great. I'll have that." My friend said, "I'll try pasta with white sauce, but please make it less spicy." The waiter wrote down everything and asked, "Would you like bread on the side?" I said, "Yes, please, that would be nice." He smiled and left. After a few minutes, our drinks arrived. I took a sip of my juice and said, "Wow, this tastes really fresh." My friend smiled, "My tea smells so good." Then the waiter served our soups. I took a small spoonful and said, "This soup is hot and delicious." My friend said, "Mine is perfect too." We both smiled. The waiter brought our main dishes. I looked at my grilled chicken and said, "This looks amazing." I took a bite and said slowly, "The flavor is so good, and the chicken is soft and juicy." My friend said, "The pasta is creamy and tasty." We both started laughing and enjoying the food. I said, "Can you please bring some ketchup?" The waiter brought it quickly. I smiled and said, "The service here is really good." After finishing the meal, the waiter asked, "Would you like some dessert?" I smiled and said, "Yes, please. I'll have a slice of chocolate cake." My friend said, "I'll have vanilla ice cream." When the desserts arrived, I took a bite and said, "This cake is so soft and sweet." My friend said, "This ice cream is perfect." We both laughed again. I said, "I think we'll come here again soon." Then I called the waiter and said, "Can we have the bill, please?" He brought it politely. I looked and asked, "Do you accept credit cards?" He replied, "Yes, we do." I smiled, paid the bill, and said, "Keep the change." The waiter said, "Thank you. Please visit again." As we stood up to leave, I said to my friend, "You know, learning English like this feels easy when you practice in real life." My friend nodded and said, "Yes, we just need confidence and simple words." I smiled and added, "Exactly. English is not about grammar, it's about practice." The next day, I told my sister about the dinner. She said, "I wish I could speak English like that." I said, "You can. Just start with small steps." She asked, "Like what?" I said, "When you go out, say simple sentences. Table for two, please." Or, "Can I have a glass of water?" She said, "That's easy." I said, "Exactly. Easy words, real practice." Later that week, I went to another restaurant alone. The waiter said, "Good afternoon, how can I help you?" I smiled and said, I'd like to order lunch, please. He said, would you like to see the menu? I said, yes, please. I looked at the menu and said, I'll take grilled fish with rice and a bottle of water. He said, would you like any dessert? I said, maybe later. When my food came, I said, thank you. The fish smelled so good. I took a bite and said, it tastes fresh. After eating, I called the waiter and said, can I have the bill, please? He brought it quickly. I said, do you accept mobile payments? He said, yes. I smiled and said, perfect, thank you. I walked out and thought, every time I speak English, I grow more confident. I realized I no longer felt nervous like before. Now I could speak easily, slowly, and politely. So, my friend, don't wait for the perfect time to learn English. Start today, speak slowly, speak simply, but speak. When you go to a restaurant, smile and use the sentences you learned today. Say, table for two, please. Can I see the menu? Or, the food was delicious. Every small sentence you speak builds your confidence. Remember, English is not about being perfect. It's about being brave.